Right.
Yeah, all right. No, we got to go to church, Michael. And I'm just yesing her.
I love the way that she described that when she was here, because she said, she's like, he left the room with a promiscuous,
Right.
drug,
Right, dancing queen. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then came back into a born again Christian.
Well, like a nun.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, everything changed. There was in the middle of our vacation. She didn't want to get high anymore. She was a great dancer. She didn't want to go and dance at night. Plus, she kind of pushed back from being intimate with me. Yeah. So I'm saying, okay, I'll say yes to anything. Just open up the shop, so to speak.
Right.
And let's get back to where we were.
Right.
No, you got to promise me when we get back home, we're going to go to church. You're hearing voices. We're going to church, and so I'm just saying, okay, if that's what you want to do, if that's what's going to keep us together, because I did love her, and I believe she loved me. But this whole thing now, in fact, spending 12 years in parochial school, I felt like I know everything about God. I don't need to go back to church,
Right.
But when we went back, you probably heard us, so she called a friend, and they invited us to come to a church on a Sunday night service. And I said, I'll go only if after we'll go to the club and get back to what we're supposed to get back to. And I had drugs in my pocket. And when I think about it, this little church in Bay Ridge had steps to go up. And I'm thinking, while I'm going up these steps, God should have killed me.
Yeah.
I was only going to church because I wanted to get high, go to the club, and wanted to sleep with my girlfriend again. Yeah. And I don't really remember what
You were like the definition of a wolf. You know what I mean? In sheep's clothing,
sure,
because as you're coming up there, though you weren't yet in.
I was a peer minister for the Charismatic Catholic Renewal of New Orleans because I wanted to date Elizabeth. Like all of my youth group, all of that, it was because I was interested in a girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what happened.
That's it's interesting.
And in fact, to my shame, I was making fun of the people because the being so demonstrative and worshiping God with hands up and people singing. And it was an older church. I'm old now, but it was an older church. And so I'm looking at the way they're dressed and I'm kind of laughing at them and all these little ladies with their hands up. And we were wearing clothes that were really inappropriate. And I'm looking at them, making fun of them when I know they were probably looking at us because we were quite strange. But when the pastor got up to make this altar call, he said, if you were to die tonight, do you know where you would go? I said, no, I don't. So we went up and we accepted Christ.